Capricorn, hi, great to see you. I hope you're doing well, particularly the Capricorn subscribers, great to see you. Hope you're doing well this month. It's always good to see you. Hey, listen, this month we're going to use the Thoth Tarot deck. Now, the Thoth Tarot deck's got some really interesting imagery in it, esoteric and spiritual sort of imagery, so I'm going to use my pen to point out a few of the more interesting aspects of it. Well, which I think are more interesting anyway, and I'm sure you'll find them to be interesting as well. Do you know, I get a lot of questions about my personal life, which by and large I like to keep personal, but there are some things, look, for anyone who's interested, I'll give you a couple of things by way of background. Some of these questions that come up are what? And it is, when did you become clairvoyant? Well, I was born that way, and the point is that I always knew things from being a child, and I thought everybody was clairvoyant, but they weren't. I was taken under the wing of a woman who was much older than I was when I was at college, and she took me through her spiritual practices. Do you know, in the old days I would have called her a witch. I back then referred to her as being a very wise woman, and she was. When I was, well, it's going back about 28 years ago now, the woman with whom I was in love with died suddenly. I won't go into the details of it. But other than to say that it was as if the sun itself was extinguished and all the birds had stopped singing. And anyway, about 6 months later, while I was still trying to make sense of it all, I was in prayer, and it was as if a pair of very dark sunglasses that I had worn since I was a child were taken from my eyes, and I could see everything. I had sight into things that I never had before, and so I was given that blessing, and since then I've used it to help other people. There is the Seven of Wands. Incidentally, if you want to see about the work that I do, check out what's in the description. Now, the thing that I'll say is there is the Seven of Wands. What's other things that we could talk about? Other questions here are, do I work? Like, do I have a day job? No, I don't. I just do spiritual work, which I have been doing for, well, since my beloved died, really. So that's it. There's the Emperor. Children. A bit reluctant to talk about children for a bit. There's the Ace of Wands. Fabulous. I am a father, albeit probably a unusual father, it has to be said, and I have more than one child. Interests I've studied to very high levels cosmology, quantum mechanics, physics, math, philosophy, and evolutionary biology. And I can tell you that if any, there's a Three of Discs. You've got some great cards this month. If any scientist or philosopher ever tries to tell you that there is no divinity or that there is nothing outside of matter from where we are, they really have no idea what they're talking about. And what do we have here? Why do I do YouTube readings? Well, that's a good question. I'll tell you why I do. It's because I've been given the gifts that I have, and there's the Six of Swords. Fantastic. I've been given the gifts I have to help other people and to be of service to other people, and in these readings you will find something in them. You can get a personal reading from me, of course, but even in these readings you'll find something in here for you which gives you comfort and which lets you know that you are loved, because you are. Anyway, that's enough talk about me. Let's talk about you and see what there is in store for you this month. Okay, Capricorn, great spread for you. Let's have a look at this central card first here. This is obviously the energy which is coming all around you now. It is the Ace of Wands. This is the card from which all creativity in the tarot comes. In the minor arcana. I'll tell you a secret. Mystically, if you were to take a microscope and look inside the Ace of Wands, you would find all the other minor arcana cards and all the court cards in it. It is the fountain of life. And here we can see 10 figures coming from this wand. These 10 figures can be equated, I suppose. Well, actually, they do represent the areas of divine emanation, being 1 through 9, which are emanation of the divinity prior to the appearance of the material universe, the 10th being the material universe. That's what's represented by there with this club, which can also be seen as a phallic symbol which is erupting in orgasm to produce sperm and therefore life. But it is a card of tremendous good fortune for you. And what this is really doing is it is saying to you that there is nothing you cannot be, there is nothing you cannot do, there is nothing you cannot have. You are the most magnificent, the most remarkable, the most splendid being God has ever created. For who could reject such wondrous magnificence? But you do not know who you are, and you think you are a great deal less. You are your own rule maker, and you are the only one who can assess how you are doing. All you see in the world is your idea about it. Life will take off for you when you choose for it to. An idea becomes a thought. A thought becomes a word. Say it out loud. Words have power and reverberate throughout all of eternity. A word becomes an action. And if you're going to do it, start. And when you start, go all the way. Do it. Do it. Seize this opportunity now. Rejoice in it. And let no power on earth take it from you. I think the people that are around you at the moment that are going to be important are Leo. I also see Virgo as being important to you. And I see Cancer as being important to you as well. This card actually represents the fire signs, being Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries. Tremendous, tremendous card. I'm going to go next to this card because it's the same color, and that's why I'm drawn to it. And what does this major arcana card of the Emperor have to say to you? Well, the Emperor really says this. The Emperor is about... The word Emperor means he who sets in order, and this Thoth Tarot deck Emperor looks towards the Empress, who would be the number 3. The Empress stands for the universal, the totality, and the love that binds creation. The Emperor is Lord of his personal universe, his kingdom, and yet his rulership over others. He has to learn that self-sacrifice is necessary in order to become a great leader. Now, if one were to look at his body, if we look at the upper body here, see there's a horizontal and it comes down in a triangle, and his legs form a cross. Well, the body forms a triangle on a cross. This triangle on a cross happens to be the image for sulfur, and the dominant red color of the card represents the astrological association with Mars, because there is Aries as the sign here, which is ruled by Mars, as I see it anyway. What else, I think, can we say about it? What's also interesting, I think, you see here we have the glyph for Aries, but you might be asking yourself, what is this thing over here? Well, this is a ancient biblical Hebrew letter called Tzadeh, and Tzadeh subsequently became defined as fishhook, which kind of resembles its shape back then when Hebrew members were devised. However, the word fishing, this is a fishhook, the word fishing can be used as a metaphor in daily life for searching for information, often into the unknown. This describes maybe the act of meditation in which we are searching for answers into your spiritual nature in the depths of the water of the divine. Depths of the water of the divine. And so this is how I think the Hebrew association with this Tzadeh fishhook comes about. Now, the triangle over the cross, well, this talks to me about the domination of spirit over matter. Also, sulfur, as I mentioned before, sulfur is the fiery element of the universe, and it can be volatile and fiery, and this might mean that you have quite an active personality and not be very passive during this time. The Emperor's crown has 4 things sticking out of it here. This refers to, I think, to stability and to structure. This number 4 is seen again here with the crossing of the legs, I think. There is a strong association with Jupiter as well for me, and Jupiter is about expansion. I think that these bees that are on his garment here, these bees refer to energy and industriousness. Bees are also very organized, and so this represents his ability to govern others, a leader. Now, these star discs which are on his throne, to me, they have 16 points on them. I've just noticed there. And, well, 16 is the atomic number of sulfur. So again, there's a reference to the alchemy of the card. Okay, we've got some other things that we could look at there, but I don't think we'll spend a lot of time on it. The only other thing I'll say here is that we were talking about self-sacrifice before. There's this figure of a lamb down here. Now, the lamb in ancient traditions and ways of life was used as a sacrifice to God by various cultures, particularly the cultures which gave rise to the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible as we know it. And in the New Testament, or the Greek sort of version, because they were all written in Greek actually, the books of the New Testament. Did you know that? Yeah, it's all written in Greek, composed in Greek. But there's one book there called the Gospel According to John, and I'm pretty sure it is in chapter 1, verse 29, where it says, "Here comes, see him who comes, the Lamb of God, for he takes away the sins of the world." Now, the Lamb of God, in that Gospel of John, he actually had, now that of course was a reference to the Jesus character. Now, in the Gospel of John, he actually has the crucifixion of Jesus undertaken a day earlier than the other 3 Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Matthew, Mark, and Luke had Jesus crucified on the day after the Passover meal. In the Gospel of John, he's crucified on the day before the Passover meal. That is, the day in which all the lambs would have been slaughtered in order to provide the meat for that Passover meal that night. So from a theological point of view, it's really quite a beautiful analogy referring to Jesus as being the Lamb of God, I think. But what does this mean for you? Now, I think that we can say that you may be taking on responsibility for others, perhaps a family member who may rely upon you for their security. I think you'll be seen as being a natural leader and organizer, working from a point of fairness with others. I think you'll prefer really to be your own boss or a leader of others rather than a follower at the moment. And if you are currently having life problems, this Emperor energy encourages you to take responsibility, breaking problems down into smaller, manageable chunks and working systematically through them. He also symbolizes someone who has lived through many life lessons, I think. As have you, really, haven't you? And you can now use that knowledge and life experience to help others and to help yourself. I think we're talking here about success through self-discipline and application, thinking logically and rationally, learning to sacrifice yourself for a greater cause. Well, only by surrender do we gain spiritually. Now, I'm going to deal with this first because it's going to be overcome by these cards here. But let's have a look to see what it says. Very interesting symbology here as well. Well, here we have the what is it, the Seven of Wands, which is referred to by the developer as valor. Well, what does valor mean? Well, it means great courage in the face of adversity. And we have a club, really, in front of these 6 quite beautifully balanced wands behind it. And these balanced wands are being pushed into the background. The distorted-looking club in the foreground is there with flames coming out randomly without focus. And I notice that these astrological glyphs, here we have Mars and here we have Aries, they are off-center as well. This is at the top left and this is down in the bottom right. So there's some sort of unbalance, there's some shenanigans or other going on here, is how I might put it. The sevens can often be quite difficult, in tarot, but I don't think that this card is anywhere near as difficult as the other sevens are. Now, astrologically, this is referring to Mars being in Leo. Well, I actually would put it into... I've got better news for you. I actually have Mars in the 3rd decan of Leo, which is about that 12th to the 22nd of August. Now, the reason why I think that's better news for you being in the 3rd decan is that Leo is a very courageous sign. Each sign, of course, is divided into 3 decans, 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. So we've got Mars in the Leo 20 to 30 sign. Now in 20 to 30, that decan is becoming mutable, it's changeable, it's becoming weaker. The energy of the sign is becoming weaker, particularly as you get close to the 30 degrees of the sign. And what Mars is doing is it's coming in to shore up the courage of the card, of the Leo sign. It's giving a final input of that warrior-like energy to the natural courage of the sign of Leo in that last decan. Now, Leo rules the heart, you may be interested to know, and so Mars gives you the courage to fight for, pull it out for a while now, gives you the courage to, as I was saying, fight for the heart's desire. Mars encourages you to stand your ground and fight for what you believe in. Now, Mars and Leo normally get on quite well, but this far down, like we're at the 7, this far down away from the ace, that harmony doesn't ordinarily exist. Now in the number 7 here, I have a mystical association with the planet of Venus as well, which is feminine. Mars, of course, is masculine. Now I'm not saying that male and female don't always get on, very often they do, but they can be quite contradictory in the way that they look at things. But the feminine energy of Venus, which is ruling that number 7, doesn't sit well here, and you might well think that it is really only your Mars energy that is keeping you going in a situation. It might feel that you are fighting a losing battle in relation to something. It might feel that you are, standing on a sinking ship in a way. Now, ordinarily, Mars in Leo can indicate someone acting with power and authority, but in this card, I think what it is saying, where it's placed up here, I think what this is saying is that, and with this wand here and with this card underneath, I think it means that you are going to be having to use all your resources in a very difficult situation, and you might have a lack of focus or even some desperation in the way that you are going about things. If I actually look at some of the symbology on this card, because the Thoth tarot deck does lend itself to looking at the mystical theology of it, the central wand here has 10 segments, suggesting a disruptive element on these 6 wands that are behind it. It's a disorganized force in dealing with adversity, and its color is amber, which is giving way to the red of the fiery, aggressive, impersonal Mars. The lotus blossoms here, they have a blue color to them. Now that blue is associated with the planet of Venus, which also is, for me, associated mystically with this number of 7. But the lotus blossoms are starting to close up, And they are becoming redder, I suppose, also under the influence of Mars. These phoenix ones, if you look at them, the ends here are red under Mars. And these caduceus ones, the top of them, they're really been reddened by that Mars energy as well. And they are being pushed to the background in chaotic energy. So your clear vision, which is through the eye of Horus, which might be seen in this caduceus here, is somewhat challenged. So I think that, really, you're learning that life is constantly changing, and therefore you need to adapt to your circumstances. I think this could be a period of time when your beliefs are being challenged and you need to hold firm in the face of opposition from others. But you will have the courage of your convictions. Now, because the suit of Wands is also about ethics and right living, this energy here may indicate that you could find yourself in a position where you are forced to fight for what you firmly believe in. Now, while sometimes being reluctant to take up the fight, I think you will now feel compelled to stand up and to be counted. If you don't stand for anything, you stand for nothing. There may be a situation where you are being tested to your limits, but your courage and strength will show through, and you will make a success over the top of your challenges. I think it's also about showing courage even when you're subconscious, and this can be a subconscious element here, wants to hold you back. A situation whereby instead of getting support, you're getting competition. And so you've got to use a lot of energy from Mars to maintain your stance. I think what this is also saying is that, look, you've just got to come to terms with the fact that you can't please all of the people all of the time. And so you can't please everyone all the time. And that there will be, well, probably always, be those people who will, from time to time, challenge your point of view, but you must defend what you believe in. But things are getting great, because have a look at this. I love this card. Now, in this Three of Discs, we have a pyramid with wheels, and it's surrounded by a sea. Now, we have the number 3 here as well. Now, the number 3 mystically has an association in Kabbalistic thought with a thing which is called the Sea of Bina. And that Sea of Bina, the number 3, is where motherhood resides, where creation resides, where the creation of form, which is, if you like, has been impregnated by the 2 of the suit, and then in the 3, the conception takes place, and then the gestation, the growth of the fetus or the growth of the being then takes place. So it's particularly good sign, and it's a particularly good number. Now, I have, interestingly, astrologically, I think I have Mars again this time. This time Mars in the second decan of your sign, Capricorn. Now, Mars supplies energy, assertion, and vitality. And you, of course, you know all about ambition and practicality and making things happen. Now, what you probably also know is that Mars is exalted at Capricorn. Now, this means that Mars is at its best when it's in Capricorn. And here I have it in the second decan of you. That is in that fixed decan where things are stable, where things are working well, when things are at their best. So this is a favorable energy here. And the energy of Mars here is very constructive under the influence of Capricorn rather than its normal disruptive self. Now, your materialism benefits from the energy and activity of Mars, so this is a good card for you, indicating favorable investment of time and focus in work. Now this is us looking at a main pyramid down from the top this way here. And I think that represents the idea of focus that allows something practical to be born out of a project. The three wheels for me are, well, if you're familiar with Hinduism, the three wheels for me definitely relate to the three gunas. That is sattvas at the top here, which is about creation and bringing into being. I think rajas, which is about the sustainment and continuation of things. And then tamas, which is about the destruction, the reordering, the recreation of things. Now the background, I mentioned the Sea of Bina, this solidified Sea of Bina, and I'm saying the mottled sense of it here refers to solidification. And the ice has melted around the pyramid, which has allowed it to arise up from out of the sea. This is a time where you will have reward for your hard work and dedication. Your skills and knowledge should move you on from your current position. Good outcomes for business projects, career, and practical matters in general. I think it shows the need to follow things which are fulfilling for both your body, your mind, and your spirit. Life is in balance, and you are reaping the rewards of what you want to do practically and live a balanced life. Really one of the best energies to have, in combination with this and this. And you see, these things here are going to overcome that. But wait, there's more. Let's have a look. Now this is the Six of Swords. Now here we have six swords coming together on a Rosicrucian cross, which is at the center of the card. Now in the center there is a circle. You can see it coming around like this, which is inside a square. See, there's that square there. Can you make that out? So there is a circle inside this square, and in the middle that Rosicrucian cross. And the background is very, very chaotic, I think you would agree. Now, the astrology of it for me is Mercury ruling the second decan of Aquarius. Mercury in Aquarius, well, what does that mean? An air planet, Mercury, finds itself here in the fixed sign of air, which is Aquarius. Now, the good news is, again, that Mercury is exalted in Aquarius, which highlights the intellectual qualities of the card. Mercury, as you probably know, is about the intellect, about among other things. And it is exalted, so that's when it's at its best. Now, Aquarius is an air sign, which is detached and intellectual by nature. And Mercury's ability to analyze brings a clear perspective for you going forward. So the astrology of the card, I think, indicates a somewhat detached but balanced assessment of a situation is needed. You need to analyze something without bias and too much emotion to get the best result. Aquarius is also the sign of innovation and originality, and so this card also represents communicating ideas that are new or even perhaps unconventional in an ordinary way. Let's have a look at some of the more interesting aspects of this card. Well, first of all, as I say, there's this rose cross that's here. All that is integration. The cross is the outfolded cube, and it represents you in the world and all that you are. It represents the unification of the macrocosm with the microcosm. You are unique, and you are a unique expression. Remember the message that came from this? Well, this is backing that up as well, as the messages are coming through to me. So you are a unique expression of the one source, being God. Now, looking at the meaning of the card from the point of view of the rose cross, it implies evolving yourself through solving life's problems and growing from the experiences, whether they be good or bad. Anything interesting to say about the rest of the stuff on here? Look, I think these things have got different colours on them. I don't think that adds up much to me from a mystical point of view. I will say, though, that I'm looking at this, I understand that the mathematics of the way these things are positioned, they actually show the stance that a fencer, someone that's involved in fencing with swords, would take in order to minimize defeat. And what they are all doing is they're all coming into the center of this rose. They're all coming in together to find rest and respite with the... Oops, sorry about that. Well, I just bashed my head. I'd have to sue someone, probably myself, and I would probably lose. So that is coming in there. Look, the cross is the central point of focus of the cards. The cross is the yellow of the sun, which has an association with an area of divine emanation, which is very much Krishna consciousness or Christ consciousness. And it really is also really the womb. Look, I think that what's happening is that you are getting intellectual clarity through learning from difficult experiences. You've now grown through tough times and can have a handle on life and can make intelligent decisions that will benefit your life. So there's a great level of awareness to your thinking and actions at this time. You might also be trying to work things out through trial and error, going through the process of experimenting things on a trial and error basis. It can also mean a situation which is getting better. Right. And that is something which you probably to date have not really been able to get to grips with, but you're now thinking out a better approach to dealing with the situation, and that is going to lead to success. Well, that's the way it is for you this month. Well, you were fantastic in that reading, as you always are. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did providing it to you. Do you know, I love doing these readings for you, and I'm glad that you get so much out of it. Now, make sure to check out the description if you'd like to have a personal reading, and just let me say this. You are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. But until then, it's bye for now.